Part 6. When Truth Changes. Truth, seemingly unchanging and solid like a mountain, yet in life, it can shift and transform over time, depending on perspective and circumstance. There are events that, when first told and understood in one way, years later, when new pieces emerge, the truth can be completely different. Sometimes, even we don't realize that we once believed in something incomplete or insufficient. Life is constantly in motion. Stories, memories, and understandings are reshaped in our minds every time we look back, reflect, and gain new experiences. Truth is not simply a fixed block that we can firmly grasp. It is like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes raging, changing shape with every bend. In this section, we will explore surprising stories, events that once seemed clear but are unveiled in ways no one expected. From there, we will understand how truth can change, not because it is false, but because our understanding of it was never fully complete. By grasping this, we learn to embrace the changing nature of truth with an open, humble mind, appreciating the endless journey of discovery that life offers. 6.1 When Theory Shatters. A scientist abandons her belief after new data emerges. One autumn morning in Cambridge, Dr. Anna Mitchell, a young and promising theoretical physicist, stood before a large whiteboard in her laboratory, her eyes fixed on the complex formulas and numbers she and her colleagues had studied for years. The theory she developed about a new type of subatomic particle had been considered a breakthrough in nuclear physics, attracting global scientific attention. Scientific papers, conferences, and even potential awards seemed within her grasp. However, everything began to change when a group of researchers from the Fermilab National Laboratory in the United States published a series of new data, based on experiments using cutting-edge particle accelerator technology. The data not only failed to confirm Anna's theory about the new particle's existence, but revealed completely opposite effects, gradually undermining her hypothesis. At first, Anna felt skeptical. She reviewed every measurement and experimental method, searching for errors or uncontrolled variables. But the more she studied, the clearer it became. The new data were reliable and undeniable. The strong belief she held in her theory began to waver, bringing feelings of insecurity, loss, and a vast emptiness in her mind. Yet, rather than denying the new data or clinging to her old theory, Anna made a courageous decision to publicly admit her mistake, abandon her once celebrated theory, and embark on a new journey of questioning and expanding understanding. She organized a seminar at Cambridge University, presenting the new data in detail and officially announcing that the old theory was no longer valid. This action was not easy, as it not only meant a scientific shift, but also impacted her reputation, career, and personal pride. Many colleagues, media, and the public reacted with mixed feelings. Some praised her honesty and bravery, while others criticized her abilities and decision. Anna Mitchell's story is a vivid testament to the changing and flexible nature of truth, especially in the scientific world. Truth is not fixed or immutable. It always evolves with new discoveries and newly verified evidence. When facing new truths, the crucial thing is not to stubbornly hold on to old beliefs, but to dare to change, learn, and acknowledge the limits of current understanding. From a Buddhist perspective, this story clearly reflects the principle of impermanence. All things and phenomena are in constant flux. Nothing exists forever in a fixed form. Truth, like all phenomena, is dependent origination, arising and changing depending on conditions and causes. When we let go of attachment to fixity, we open our minds to deeper truths. In everyday life, Anna's story reminds us of the importance of humility and openness. In many fields, from science and education to personal relationships, truth can shift and must be approached with a readiness to adapt. Accepting that we might be wrong and that truth can differ is not failure, but a vital step toward growth and awakening. Just as Anna learned to let go of a theory to discover a new truth, we too need to practice releasing prejudices and rigid beliefs to embrace truth more fully. Because truth never stands still. It is a continuous journey of discovery, change, and expansion. This story serves as a profound reminder. Keep your heart open, fear not change, and be ready to learn when new truths emerge. For in doing so, we move closer to true understanding, a truth that is not merely data or theory, but the full connection between wisdom and humility. 6.2 The Journey of Change. When travel broadens the mind and transforms perspectives. One cool spring in Seattle, Marcus Reed, a 34-year-old project manager known for his conservative views and resistance to accepting differences, decided to embark on a long trip across Asia, a reward to himself after years of hard work. Marcus was always confident in his opinions, believing the world was complex and many social issues were difficult to change. However, from the very first days in Bangkok, Thailand, Marcus began to notice the stark differences in the lifestyle and attitudes of the locals. It wasn't just the scenery or cuisine, but the small stories he heard from old street vendors, young women working in roadside cafes, and even beggars who greeted tourists with gentle smiles. All of these experiences gradually chipped away at the protective shell around his soul. Continuing his journey, Marcus arrived at a small village deep in the Himalayas, where simple living harmonized with majestic nature. He was invited to join a meditation session led by Buddhist monks. For the first time, Marcus experienced inner peace, feeling his mind free from the chaos of thoughts about work, money, or status. Through lessons on compassion and mindfulness, he began to reassess himself and the world around him in an entirely new light. One of the most memorable moments on the trip was when Marcus happened to help a lost ethnic minority child in the forest. With no common language, he used his eyes, gestures, and sincere heart to comfort and lead the child back to their family. This experience profoundly awakened Marcus to the deep connection among people that transcends all barriers of language, culture, and society. After more than 6 months traveling through countries like Thailand, Nepal, India, and Vietnam, Marcus returned home with a completely new mindset. He no longer held rigid prejudices, but embraced deep respect for diversity and difference. His worldview had shifted dramatically. From someone who once saw the world as complex, confusing, and full of troubles, he became someone who believed in the power of empathy, sharing, and forgiveness. Marcus began applying the lessons from his journey to his daily life. He focused more on listening and understanding others, trying not to judge people based on appearances or his prior beliefs. His management work improved thanks to better teamwork and an open attitude toward diverse opinions. Marcus's story vividly illustrates the power of real-life experience in changing perspectives and awareness. Before his trip, he believed his views were unshakable truths. But through engaging with diverse lives and cultures, he realized the limits of his own understanding and opened his heart to new viewpoints. From a psychological standpoint, this process is known as cognitive flexibility, the ability to adjust thoughts and attitudes when encountering new information or different experiences. This is a crucial factor that helps people develop emotional intelligence, enhance empathy, and reduce prejudice. In Buddhist tradition, Marcus's story also reflects the principles of no-self, anatta, and dependent origination, pratityasamutpada, that we are not fixed entities but always changing according to our relationships with the surrounding world. When he let go of rigid beliefs, his mind became freer and more open, seeing the world with clarity and compassion. The trip was not just a journey to explore culture, landscapes, or novel experiences, but a profound inner transformation. It reminds us that truth is not always found in books or theories, but illuminated through lived experience, sincere feelings, and openness of heart. Marcus is a living example that changing perspectives is not a sign of weakness or inconsistency, but an expression of wisdom and courage to admit mistakes, to learn, and to open one's heart to embrace the richer, multifaceted truths of life. His story serves as a reminder for each of us to keep our minds open, ready to change and integrate new experiences. One of the deepest truths emphasized by all spiritual traditions is impermanence, the constant change, flux, and transformation of all things. Buddhism calls this anicca, meaning nothing lasts forever. Everything is in a continuous state of flow. This is not just an abstract concept, but an evident reality in every moment of life. When we understand and accept impermanence, we begin to realize that all emotions, thoughts, experiences, and external circumstances are not fixed. Difficulties that once seemed eternal will pass, and joys will not last forever. This awareness does not make us pessimistic or indifferent. Instead, it helps us live fully and cherish every present moment, without clinging or resisting what is happening. From a modern perspective, impermanence is related to the concept of a growth mindset, proposed by psychologist Carol Dweck. A growth mindset is the belief that abilities, intelligence, and character are not fixed but can develop and improve through effort, learning, and experience. Applying a growth mindset to ourselves and the world means seeing failure not as an end, but as an opportunity to grow, seeing change not as a threat, but as an essential part of progress. These two ideas, impermanence and growth mindset, are closely linked and complement each other. Impermanence shows us that nothing is permanent. A growth mindset gives us the tools to actively adapt and unlock our inner potential. When we realize the constant flux of life, we are less shaken by sudden changes, more willing to let go of rigid attachments, and always ready to learn and explore new possibilities. Looking deeper into human psychology, many problems stem from our fixation on permanence. Buddhism does not teach impermanence only theoretically, but also offers practical methods such as mindfulness meditation, observing the breath and mental states objectively. Through this, we learn not to cling to negative emotions or fixed ideas, and to clearly see the changes happening within our own minds. This is the first step in building a strong, flexible, and free inner mindset. In daily life, a growth mindset helps us face challenges with persistence, not easily giving up when failing. We learn to treat mistakes as valuable lessons, changes as chances to broaden our perspective. From this, we develop not only knowledge and skills, but also maturity in awareness, emotion, and attitude. The combination of impermanence and growth mindset is also deeply meaningful for healing psychological wounds. When we accept that pain, loss, or hardship are temporary states, we can more easily release despair, anger, or grief. At the same time, with a growth mindset, we seek opportunities to grow from those experiences, regenerating positive energy and building inner peace. A famous example is Nelson Mandela, who endured 27 years in prison, suffering great hardship and injustice. Yet he never let those experiences crush his spirit. He always held a growth mindset, believing that both he and his country could change for the better. Mandela's story illustrates the power of accepting impermanence and transformation step by step in life's journey. However, to truly embody impermanence and cultivate a growth mindset, we must consistently practice mindfulness and self-observation. Change is not always comfortable, but with openness and patience, we recognize that every shift is a miracle bringing us closer to awakening and inner freedom. In a modern world full of rapid changes and pressure, equipping ourselves with an understanding of impermanence and a growth mindset provides a solid foundation for psychological balance, quick adaptation, and a fuller life experience. This lesson applies not only to individuals, but also to communities facing social, environmental, and technological transformations. Ultimately, impermanence and the growth mindset remind us that life is not a static painting, but a dynamic artwork, constantly redrawn each day by ourselves. The choice to keep our minds open, flexible, and learning will determine the colors and meaning of that picture. This is the path to true freedom in awareness and life experience. Part 7. The middle way, not getting stuck on one side. In life, we often get caught up in extremes, in definitive views of right or wrong, winning or losing, which bind our minds and cause suffering. The middle way, one of the core teachings of Buddhism, opens a path out of this deadlock. The middle way is not passive neutrality, but a delicate balance where we do not cling to any perspective or emotion, but instead let go and see things as they truly are. When we get stuck on one side, the mind becomes rigid, inflexible, and easily hurt by life's changes. The middle way reminds us that truth never has just one face. Every issue is multidimensional and constantly changing. Following the middle way means practicing the ability to harmonize, accepting both sides without being swept away, thereby expanding awareness and compassion. This is not just a philosophical lesson, but an essential life skill in today's world, where division, extremism, and conflict are increasing. The middle way helps us find inner peace, balance in relationships, and freedom from the chains of prejudice, bias, and extreme emotions. The journey on the middle way is a continuous practice requiring patience and mindfulness. But when successful, it opens a vast door to true freedom, freedom in thought, feeling, and action. This is the path to harmony, peace, and genuine happiness. 7. Two monks argued for 10 years, then meditated together and realized there was nothing left to argue about. In an ancient temple nestled deep within the lush mountains of Japan, there lived two young monks named Takashi and Hiroshi. Both studied under the guidance of a renowned Zen master, but their personalities and perspectives were very different. Takashi adhered strictly to tradition, focusing on rituals, discipline, and precise practice. Meanwhile, Hiroshi leaned toward freedom and meditation, believing that each person must find their own path to enlightenment. From the very beginning of their practice, the two monks frequently engaged in heated debates. Every time they met, they presented sharp arguments to defend their views. The disputes started over small matters such as how to sit in meditation and gradually evolved into profound questions about the nature of enlightenment, truth, and the path of spiritual cultivation. The head monk often advised them, but both remained steadfast in their beliefs, creating tension within the temple. Years passed, and the debate dragged on for 10 long years. Many monks and novices in the temple grew weary and sometimes frustrated by the endless arguments. Yet, Takashi and Hiroshi did not give up. Each believed it was necessary to defend their truth, even if it meant remaining apart. Then one day, the Zen master called them together and proposed a special challenge. Sit together in silent meditation for 1 week. No arguing, no debating, just focus on your breath and your being. At first, both doubted and were reluctant to accept this idea. But out of respect for their teacher, they agreed. During those 7 days, there were no fierce debates, only deep silence and shared meditative space. As the days passed, the walls built by rigid beliefs and assumptions slowly dissolved. Takashi began to realize that excessive strictness didn't always lead to enlightenment, but sometimes caused rigidity and limitation. Meanwhile, Hiroshi saw that freedom without structure sometimes left the practitioner lost and lacking steadfastness. On the final day, as the sun set casting pale golden rays over the temple roof, the two monks looked at each other with eyes full of understanding. They realized that all the previous arguments were just small fragments of a larger truth, and that truth cannot be confined to any one personal perspective. Takashi gently said, "We have argued for so long, but now I understand that there is nothing left to argue about. Truth transcends words and opinions." Hiroshi nodded in agreement. That is indeed so. Sitting in meditation together, we see clearly that distinctions are but veils over our eyes. From that moment on, the two monks became companions on their spiritual journey, sharing silence and the light of awakening together. They no longer cared about right or wrong, winning or losing, but embraced acceptance and harmony. The story of Takashi and Hiroshi is not only about two monks debating. It is proof of the power of letting go, humility, and the realization that truth never belongs solely to one side. In today's world, where many easily divide over differing opinions, their story reminds us to return to the middle way, where attachment fades, understanding flourishes, and harmony prevails. The path of the middle way is not passivity or lack of conviction, but flexibility, compassion, and mindfulness in every step of life. It is the way to break free from the chains of extreme thinking, opening the space for truth to be fully seen and the spirit to be liberated. 7.2 Investigative journalist discovers both sides are partially right. In New Orleans, a city where complex and multifaceted stories flow like the Mississippi River, an investigative journalist named Rachel Morgan began her journey to uncover the truth behind a heated local controversy. The issue involved a redevelopment project in the port area, where two opposing groups fiercely debated. Supporters believed the project would create many jobs and improve quality of life, while opponents argued it would destroy the environment and disrupt the community's existing way of life. Rachel, with years of investigative journalism experience, sought not just to find a story to publish, but to deeply understand every perspective, motivation, and reason behind the dispute. She spent months interviewing local residents, community leaders, environmental experts, economists, and activists. Each person shared compelling facts, data, and personal feelings they believed to be the truth. One day, while reviewing related documents, Rachel discovered an overlooked environmental report indicating that although the project might negatively impact the coastal ecosystem, the severity had been mitigated by protective measures promised by the investors. Simultaneously, employment surveys showed that the project would not generate as many long-term jobs as the supporters claimed. Most new jobs would only be temporary during construction. Rachel decided to write an article that not only revealed the fragmented truth, but also emphasized the complexity of modern issues, where truth isn't singular but a collection of intertwined viewpoints and events. Her article quickly caught the attention of both camps. Though initially displeased at not winning, they gradually understood that embracing the multifaceted nature of truth is the first step toward finding reasonable solutions. Rachel Morgan's story demonstrates an uncomfortable but undeniable reality. The world isn't always clearly black and white, but often resides in ambiguous shades of gray. When each person holds only part of the truth, yet no one can fully grasp it all, trying to force one's own version of the truth only breeds division and misunderstanding. From a Buddhist perspective, this story vividly illustrates the concept of the middle way, a path that avoids extremes by maintaining calm, objectivity, and awareness of one's own cognitive limitations. Attachment to a single viewpoint is the root cause of conflict and suffering. In practice, applying the middle way means not rushing to conclusions, not clinging tightly to beliefs, but opening one's heart to multiple perspectives, learning, and continuously adjusting understanding. Only then can society reduce bitter conflicts, and individuals find harmony within themselves and with others. Rachel's story also reminds us of the responsibility of media and information consumers in the digital age, where information spreads quickly but verification and deep understanding remain limited. Truth is not a commodity to be bought and sold hastily. It must be built with patience, care, and humility. From this, readers can also draw an important lesson for their own lives. Do not rush to judge or let prejudice obscure the truth. Instead, learn to listen, observe, empathize, and respect the diversity of experiences and opinions. Only then can we collectively build a world where truth is seen more comprehensively and oppositions give way to harmony. Rachel Morgan concluded her article with a quote she cherished. Truth is not an unchanging stone, but a vibrant mosaic completed over time through the harmony of many different pieces. It is this understanding that will guide us through the challenges of the modern world, illuminated by the light of compassion and wisdom. 7.3 Analysis, the middle way. Integrative thinking. In the colorful flow of life, people often get caught up in extremes, black or white, right or wrong, good or bad. However, reality is far more complex and cannot be simply confined to such simplistic labels. The middle way, a core philosophy in Buddhism, is a reminder to avoid all extremes and aim for balance and harmony. The middle way is not about indifferent or superficial neutrality, but a profound understanding of the dependent origination of all things. Knowing how to harmonize and integrate opposing aspects into a cohesive whole. Integrative thinking thus becomes an essential skill in the modern age, where multidimensional and complex information easily traps us in the pitfalls of polarization and bias. It is the ability to observe, analyze, and connect different perspectives objectively and comprehensively, rather than selecting a single viewpoint and imposing it on the whole reality. Integrative thinking helps us avoid mistakes caused by bias or emotion and broadens our understanding and problem-solving abilities. Buddhism teaches that all phenomena arise from conditions. Nothing exists independently or permanently. Things appear and exist only in relation to other causes and conditions. Understanding this truth, we do not cling to one perspective but recognize that each viewpoint is a small part of a larger picture. Therefore, the middle way is an attitude of non-attachment, non-denial, but of acceptance and balance. For example, in life, When facing conflict, if we only look from an emotional or biased perspective, we easily get caught in disputes, leading to tension or even broken relationships. But applying integrative thinking, we try to listen to both sides and find common ground and hidden truths behind apparent differences. This not only eases conflict, but opens opportunities for cooperation and mutual growth. In reality, integrative thinking is not easy, as it requires patience, humility, and the ability to self-reflect. We must accept that we can be wrong, that the truth is not entirely in our hands, and that others also have reasonable reasons for their viewpoints. This is the journey of overcoming rigid ego and expanding the mind to embrace the diversity and complexity of the world. At the same time, the middle way emphasizes appropriate action, avoiding excess or neglect. In life, we should not always react extremely or pessimistically. Neither should we be blindly optimistic or indifferent. Calmness and wisdom in every action and thought help us maintain inner balance and avoid unnecessary troubles. Integrative thinking is also linked to the modern scientific and management concept of systems. Viewing problems as parts of a larger system, we realize that everything is interconnected and influences each other. Effective problem solving must be based on a holistic view, connecting factors harmoniously instead of focusing on isolated points while ignoring related elements. Moreover, it helps us realize that opposing viewpoints are not necessarily absolute contradictions, but can complement each other. Maintaining an open, flexible, and continuously learning attitude makes us more balanced and mature in thought and action. In summary, the middle way and integrative thinking are the keys that open the door to peace and wisdom. This is the path that helps us live harmoniously with ourselves and the world around us. Part 8. Change your perspective. Change your life. Life often places us in challenging situations that make us feel stuck or stagnant. But there is one important truth that few realize. It is our perspective that determines how we experience the world and shape our lives. Changing your perspective is not simply seeing things differently, but a breakthrough in awareness that helps open your heart, break inner limitations, and find a new path toward peace and happiness. Many stories prove that just a single moment of changing how you see things, a moment of inner awakening, is enough to completely change a person's direction. New perspectives not only clarify old truths, but also bring unexplored opportunities, helping us move beyond the shadows of doubt, prejudice, or fear. Buddhism teaches that all suffering arises from our one-sided attachments and judgments. When we let go and transform our view with compassion and wisdom, the outside world seems to change accordingly. It is from this inner transformation that life can be recreated, not by external miracles, but through our own awakening and change. This part will guide you through vivid stories of people who found the power to change their perspective and thereby completely change their lives. They stand as living proof that sometimes stepping back to see the bigger picture, pausing to reflect, can be the beginning of a fresh and meaningful journey. 8.1 From online enemies to close friends. The story of a meeting that changed everything. In today's digital world, it's common to witness intense arguments on social media. But there are rare stories that make us believe that even the most heated conflicts can give rise to reconciliation and friendship. The story of two people who seemed impossible to stand on the same side, but found deep empathy and connection in real life is a vivid example of the power of changing perspectives and direct encounters. Sarah Collins, 29, is a freelance journalist living in London, known on social media for her sharp articles and straightforward debating style. On the other hand, Michael Reeves, 32, is a technology expert living in Seattle who frequently shares opinions opposing Sarah's on various social and political forums online. For months, they exchanged heated battles, with sometimes harsh criticism. Everything began to change when mutual friends, aware of their online debates, arranged an in-person meeting for them at an international conference on media and technology in Berlin. Although still hesitant, Sarah and Michael decided to attend, unaware that this would become a turning point in their lives. At first, the tension was still palpable. Both kept their distance and spoke cautiously. However, their differences sparked curiosity about each other, and gradually, they began to open up by sincerely listening to one another. more than they ever had online. Through sharing personal stories, life experiences, and the reasons behind their views, Sarah and Michael gradually realized that beneath their rigid arguments were human beings with fears, hopes, and unhealed wounds. Understanding replaced previous judgments and harsh biases. Their meeting, lasting many hours, changed how they saw each other and themselves. Sarah admitted that her online debates often expressed frustration rather than a full understanding of others' complex perspectives. Michael realized that his stubbornness sometimes caused him to overlook the human and diverse sides of life. After the event, they kept in regular contact, sharing not only opinions on politics and society, but also everyday stories, work challenges, and successes. Their relationship grew closer, and online arguments were replaced by respectful, profound conversations. Sarah and Michael's story is not just about two individuals reconciling after conflict, but a powerful lesson about how we perceive and react to others in a digital age. In the online world, where misunderstandings and conflicts can erupt from a few words, a genuine, face-to-face meeting can hold incredible, transformative power. From a Buddhist perspective, this story illustrates the principle of no-self and compassion. When we put ourselves in another's place and look deeply within them, we recognize the inseparable connection among all beings. It also reminds us that sometimes the truth is not about who is right or wrong, but about having the courage to step out from behind the screen. Meet. Sarah and Michael now stand as living proof that changing perspectives can open the door to friendship and reconciliation, transcending seemingly unbreakable boundaries. Their story powerfully reminds us that in the chaotic world of information and emotion, the heart and empathy remain the compass guiding us toward the light of truth and peace. 8.2 Story. The Woman Who Forgave the Person Who Once Slandered Her. A Journey to Find Peace Amidst Pain. Emily Thompson is a 38-year-old woman living in Boston, USA, working as a manager at a nonprofit organization supporting underprivileged children. Her life seemed peaceful until one day, a former colleague suddenly spread false rumors about her, accusing Emily of embezzling charity funds for personal gain. The rumor quickly spread within her work community and social circles, severely damaging Emily's reputation. This event caused Emily to go through the most difficult months of her life. She was alienated by colleagues, abandoned by friends, and faced intense investigations. Despite her efforts to prove her innocence and transparency, the whispers and suspicious looks followed her everywhere. In moments when hope seemed lost, Emily turned to a deep belief in compassion and forgiveness. She began a journey of meditation and studied Buddhist teachings, which emphasized the importance of letting go of hatred and practicing tolerance toward oneself and others. One day, at a small reunion with old friends, what surprised Emily was that Mark showed no remorse or apology, but instead was defensive and justifying his actions. Instead of responding with anger or resentment, Emily chose a different path, calmly listening and sincerely sharing the pain she had endured. She explained that forgiveness was not a sign of weakness, but her way to free herself from the burdens of the past, to live more peacefully in the present. Their conversation was difficult but emotionally profound. Mark gradually realized the consequences of his actions not only hurt Emily, but deeply affected himself. The tension, anxiety, and loneliness from his past emerged in his words. Over time, the relationship between Emily and Mark shifted from hatred to understanding. Mark started participating in self-development and spiritual courses, trying to change, make amends, and find inner peace. Emily and Mark's story is not only a journey of a woman forgiving someone who hurt her, but also a testament to the miraculous power of compassion and sincerity. From the ability to release invisible burdens and view everything through compassionate eyes. In today's world, where conflicts and misunderstandings easily flare and persist, Emily and Mark's story offers precious inspiration. It reminds us that anyone can become a bridge of reconciliation and healing, not only for themselves, but for the community around them. When the light of forgiveness shines, it not only dispels the darkness of hatred, but also ignites the flame of hope for souls yearning for freedom and peace. And that journey, no matter how difficult, is always worth more than anything else. 8.3 Analysis. Forgiveness, liberating the mind. The neurological impact of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not merely a social or moral act. It is a profound inner process that significantly influences our psychological and physiological states, resentment, and suffering. This has a profound effect on the brain and nervous system, opening a space of inner calm and peace. First, it is important to understand what forgiveness truly means from both spiritual and scientific perspectives. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or accepting wrongful acts. It is a process of fully recognizing the pain, understanding its origin and impact, and then consciously choosing to let go of negative emotions so they no longer control us. This is spiritual freedom, a way to end the cycle of ongoing mental suffering. From the viewpoint of neuroscience, forgiveness reduces activity in brain regions associated with negative emotions, particularly the amygdala, the center responsible for fear and stress responses. Holding on to grudges causes overactivity in the amygdala, leading to chronic stress, hormonal imbalance, weakened immune function, and overall health deterioration. Conversely, forgiveness calms this area and enhances activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for emotion regulation, decision-making, and conscious behavior. Moreover, forgiveness triggers the release of neurotransmitters such as oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, chemicals that promote feelings of peace, social bonding, and happiness. Oxytocin, known as the bonding hormone, reduces stress and fosters trust. When we forgive, the brain is programmed to create a state of balance and positivity, allowing the mind to become clearer, lighter, and more peaceful. Forgiveness also soothes the autonomic nervous system, lowering heart rate, blood pressure, and cortisol levels, the hormone associated with stress. This explains why people who practice forgiveness tend to be healthier, live longer, and experience fewer stress-related illnesses. However, forgiveness is not easy, leading to purity and enlightenment. The Buddha taught that all afflictions, anger, hatred, arise from ignorance and attachment, and only when we learn to let go can the mind be truly free. Numerous empirical studies show that those who practice forgiveness cope better with adversity and failure, and improve their personal and social relationships. Developing compassion helps us forgive others as well as ourselves, an essential step in healing and rebuilding inner strength. In reality, many tools can support the forgiveness process, meditation. This greatly aids in releasing negative emotions and expanding generosity. But we can still maintain boundaries to protect ourselves and prevent further harm. Stories of forgiveness often demonstrate the power of inner transformation. Practice here is not only meditation, mindfulness, or spiritual cultivation methods, but also the attitude of perseverance and patience with ourselves in every living moment. When we begin practicing regularly, the mind is gradually trained not to be distracted by illusions, prejudices, or negative emotions. Through this, each layer covering the consciousness is gently lifted, allowing us to see more clearly the true nature of things, people, and circumstances. This is a journey of self-liberation, not through coercion or denial, but through acceptance, observation, and profound understanding. Practice is also the key to connecting fully with reality, instead of living in the illusory world of thoughts and feelings. Only when our mind is calm and clear can we realize that truth is not simply what we think or feel, but a complex and multidimensional mosaic. Step by step in practice, we learn to open our hearts, soothe inner conflicts, and find serenity amid the ever-changing stream of life. So let us embark on the journey of practice, so that each passing day is not just existence, but an opportunity to see, to understand, and to love more. Because only when we see more, do we live more fully. That is the secret to true freedom and happiness. 9.1 Story. A company reduces conflict through non-judgmental listening. The secret to transforming workplace culture. In a major American city, there was a fast-growing technology company known for its rapid expansion and high-pressure work environment. The team was diverse, coming from many different countries and cultures. The company invited a psychologist to work with employees over a week. The main theme of the training was non-judgmental listening, a skill that seems simple but is extremely difficult to practice under work stress and pressure. Employees were guided to listen fully to their colleagues without interrupting, rushing to judgment, or drawing conclusions. The goal was to help everyone feel respected and correctly understood, thereby minimizing misunderstandings and creating a safe space for open sharing. At first, many employees were skeptical and uncomfortable. They were used to winning fast in meetings or quickly reacting when challenged. However, gradually, change began to take shape. One employee, Lisa, who had frequently argued with colleagues over project management approaches, began to shift. When Lisa truly listened without interrupting or rebutting, she realized that opinions she once considered wrong actually had their own value and contributed to improving the overall plan. Lisa also felt relief from no longer feeling the need to fight in every meeting. Lisa's story was not unique. A product development team, which had many disagreements about direction and quality standards, started holding weekly, open listening sessions. These meetings were not aimed at making quick decisions, but at creating a space where all viewpoints were respected and acknowledged. A young engineer. Measurable results showed a significant decrease in disputes, increased job satisfaction, and greater employee loyalty. Leadership also noted that decisions were more effective because they were based on deep understanding of different perspectives instead of one-sided imposition. Employees began to share that they felt heard and valued, which boosted motivation and team spirit. This company's story is a vivid testament to the power of non-judgmental listening in all relationships, especially in high-pressure, multicultural workplaces. It shows that when we truly listen to others without bias or resistance, we not only make them feel respected, but also broaden our own worldview. This is an important step in practicing seeing more, not just with our eyes, but with our hearts and souls. This change in how information is perceived and received is a key piece that helps reduce conflict, improve work efficiency, and build a healthier work environment. Most importantly, each individual grows not only professionally, but also in how they live and interact with the world around them. 9.2 Story. Their life is much like many other families. Busy schedules, pressures from work and school often lead to small arguments, especially on evenings when everyone is tired after a long day. The story of the Reynolds family began with a simple idea that completely changed how they perceive and experience daily life. One Friday evening, Lisa Reynolds, the mother, after watching a program on mindfulness and family harmony, suggested to her husband Mark and their two children, Emma and Jake, to try a small challenge. They chose Sunday for their first trial, a day when the whole family stayed home together, traditionally a day prone to conflicts due to differing interests, schedules, and opinions. Their 12-year-old daughter, who usually complained about the bread not being what she liked, remained silent and politely asked to switch to another dish without any grumbling. Jake, her 9-year-old brother, was less fussy than usual, and instead of arguing with his mom about tidying up his toys, he voluntarily picked up each item. Lisa and Mark were also calmer when faced with problems like the washing machine breaking down or the neighbors playing loud music. The most remarkable moment came in the afternoon, when the whole family cleaned the house and prepared dinner together. Previously, cleaning was a major source of conflict as everyone wanted to do it their own way and refused to compromise. But that day, there were no accusations or harsh words. They took turns working, and Emma even suggested a fun game. Whoever cleaned the fastest got to pick the movie for the evening. The family atmosphere became light, joyful, and full of laughter. As the sun set, the Reynolds family gathered around the dinner table, in a warm atmosphere unlike the usual tense evenings. Mark, the father who was usually strict, shared that he felt a profound change in how everyone communicated and understood each other. The family decided to keep having a no-arguing day at least once a week. This didn't mean conflicts disappeared completely, but the way they dealt with disagreements changed deeply. Instead of exploding or silently enduring, they learned to communicate respectfully, seek common solutions, and most importantly, not let small issues damage their family bonds. The Reynolds family story is not only proof of the power of self-restraint, but also a lesson on changing perspectives and behaviors to create a happier living environment. The no-arguing day is a practical, simple practice embodying the Buddhist principle: when the mind is pure, the world is pure. When each family member's mind is peaceful, the shared space naturally becomes gentle and harmonious. And these small daily changes will, over time, create significant differences in life and relationships. The Reynolds family always remembers this experience as a turning point, a precious lesson in nurturing love and understanding. They believe that if every family in the world tried just one no-arguing day, society would suffer less pain and gain more sincere love. This story, set in a modern Western context, great change begins, not through empty words, but through concrete, practical actions every day. 9.3 Analysis. Mindfulness in communication. Perspective taking. Communication is an indispensable part of daily life for every individual. And the way we communicate not only affects the effectiveness of information exchange, but also reflects our attitudes, emotions, and understanding of others. However, in reality, in this context, mindfulness has become an important tool, helping people maintain awareness and deep consciousness of themselves and others in every moment of interaction. Mindfulness in communication can be simply understood as paying full attention, without judgment, and being completely present in the moment when interacting with others. When practicing mindfulness, we not only hear what the other person says, but also sense their emotions, tone, and nonverbal cues, thus creating a deeper understanding. We not only recognize our own emotions, but truly understand the origins and meanings of emotions and thoughts within others. This forms the foundation of true empathy and is a crucial step toward building sincere, lasting relationships. Studies on effective communication and conflict resolution have demonstrated that practicing mindfulness and perspective-taking helps reduce stress, increase satisfaction in relationships, and promote cooperation. People who maintain mindfulness during conversations tend to listen better, avoid being swept away by negative emotions or rash reactions, and thought of daily life. Right speech is one of the 8 elements of the Noble Eightfold Path, guiding people to speak truthfully, gently, appropriately, and timely. When speaking and listening with mindfulness, every word carries weight. Every response is conscious and compassionate. We also develop flexibility in thinking. We no longer always need to defend our own views, but know how to open our hearts to accept different opinions, seeing them as opportunities to learn and improve ourselves. This is the spirit of harmony, not rigidly attached to one side, but accepting the diversity and complexity of worldviews. Moreover, in today's fast-paced information world with many pressures, practicing mindfulness in communication also helps us avoid psychological traps such as biases, prejudices, or confirmation bias, the tendency to focus on and believe only information that fits one's existing views. When we remain mindful and calm, we can recognize hidden prejudices and strive to broaden perspectives, receive diverse information, and process matters more objectively. This not only minimizes conflicts in personal communication, but also positively affects more complex environments such as workplaces, schools, or communities. A communication environment maintained by mindfulness and perspective-taking is one where people feel heard, respected, and free to express their views without fear of judgment or rejection. In summary, mindfulness in communication is not just a skill but a way of life, a means for us to approach the world and people more deeply and fully. When we are truly present in every moment, clearly aware of our own feelings and thoughts, while making efforts to understand others with compassion and wisdom, communication becomes a bridge connecting hearts and souls. Truth lies in the journey. Truth rarely appears as a clear and fixed destination. Instead, it is an ongoing journey of discovery and understanding. In life, we often seek truth as a final endpoint, a definitive answer to the uncertainties and contradictions within our minds. But upon deeper reflection, we realize that truth is not a single, unchanging thing, but rather a series of experiences, perspectives, and continual shifts in perception. This journey to find truth is not only an exploration of the external world, but also an inward path where each of us confronts ourselves, with our beliefs, biases, and emotions. With every step taken, it is precisely through this transformation process that truth ceases to be something to seize or assert, becoming instead a way of living mindfully, meaningfully, and in harmony with the true nature of all things. Every story, every experience is a piece in the larger puzzle of truth, And it is this journey that allows us to see more clearly and understand more deeply both ourselves and the world around us. Let us together enter Part 10 to explore profound stories and lessons that open the door to the truth that does not lie in a destination, but in the very journey we are on. 10. 1. The Nomad and the Philosopher, the Final Dialogue. In a remote valley of the Central Asian highlands, where cold winds swept across rocky mountains and the vast sky stretched endlessly like a boundless painting, an old nomad was packing up his tent beside a glowing fire. The nomad started by sharing his life story, a life closely tied to nature, where every day was a lesson about impermanence and transience. He spoke of wild horses, of mountains changing with the seasons, and how every moment was precious because it never returned. To him, truth was simple and vivid, not the abstract concepts that the philosopher often pondered. It was existence here and now, acceptance, and flowing with life rather than resisting it. The philosopher listened, then responded with reflections on the concept of absolute truth, on the great philosophical systems from Aristotle to Kant, Nietzsche to Heidegger. He spoke about the complexity of truth, how each culture and individual understood and defined it differently. He admitted that truth could be relative, and the search for truth sometimes resembled trying to grasp a shadow blurred in dense fog. Their dialogue deepened as they discussed the role of consciousness in perceiving truth. The nomad spoke of peace arising from letting go of desire and illusions, of freedom when no longer bound by rigid beliefs or prejudices. The philosopher shared about the concept of enlightenment in Eastern traditions and how meditation helps one see through the true nature of phenomena. They talked about the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge can be learned and passed on, but wisdom is profound understanding that permeates the soul. The nomad recounted lessons drawn from observing nature and people, that sometimes truth lies not in searching, but in listening and watching with a calm heart. The philosopher shared his personal journey, moments of inner conflict and doubt, brief flashes of insight when he felt unity between self and universe. He acknowledged that truth isn't always easy to accept because it can shatter deeply held beliefs and ideals. Toward the end of their conversation, and lived experience, not books, is the truest teacher. The philosopher emphasized that knowledge and reasoning help us better understand the world, but cannot replace deep experience and insight. As night fell and the fire dimmed, they stood up. They knew their dialogue had no clear conclusion, no winner or loser, no ultimate answer. But in that exchange, in those sincere and profound moments, they touched a shared truth. Truth is not a rigid definition, but a journey of the soul, an ever-expanding process of awareness and compassion. Before parting, the meeting between the nomad and the philosopher was not just a convergence of two worlds, knowledge and experience, reason and feeling, modernity and tradition, but a testament to a profound truth. Truth is a continuous journey, an ever-changing process of soul and mind, and each of us is a traveler on this path. 10.2 Buddhist message. Ultimate truth can only be experienced, not grasped. In the journey of seeking truth, Buddhism offers a profound and distinctive perspective compared to many other philosophical and religious schools. Rather than presenting truth as a fixed definition, an immutable concept, or an unchanging system of doctrine, Buddhism emphasizes that the ultimate truth is not something we can grasp with the mind or express in words, but can only be directly experienced and understood through enlightenment. From the time of the Buddha, he warned that teachings are merely skillful means, a lamp to light the way, not the light itself. In the Diamond Sutra, he clearly stated, "The Dharma I teach is not the true Dharma, so one must abandon all dharmas to understand it." This means all concepts, no matter how refined, are merely superficial manifestations in the relative world, not absolute truth. The ultimate truth in Buddhism is called the ultimate reality, Paramartha Satya, a state beyond all dualistic distinctions such as right-wrong, good-bad, permanent-impermanent. Ultimate reality is the truth as it truly is, unclouded by illusions, attachments, or ignorance. But this truth is not an object to be held or measured. It is a state of completely clear, unburdened awareness. In everyday life, people tend to want to grasp the truth, to have clear, transparent answers about everything. We seek certainty to feel secure amidst life's fluctuations. Yet Buddhism teaches that this very attempt to hold on is what causes suffering. The nature of ultimate truth is impermanence, ever-changing and impossible to fix. Profound meditation experiences, from Buddhist practitioners worldwide to modern mindfulness practitioners, show that when we release rigid notions of right and wrong, when we no longer cling to fixed ideas, we begin to perceive truth directly, a truth the ordinary mind cannot express. It is the truth in each moment, in every breath, in every sensation of self and the surrounding world. A story about a Western meditation master, formerly a renowned scientist, but a spiritual experience beyond logic. From then on, his journey shifted from seeking external truth to exploring inner truth. Buddhism's message also affirms that no one can give ultimate truth to another. Each person must experience and realize it themselves through practice and reflection. The Buddha never asked followers to believe blindly, but advised them to verify through their own experience. This makes Buddhism accessible and relevant to all times and cultures because it honors personal experience and freedom of inquiry. However, the path to experiencing ultimate truth is not easy. It requires patience, continual mindfulness, and the ability to let go of ego and rigid viewpoints. Through this process, practitioners gradually realize that everything in the world is interdependent, dependent on causes and conditions, and nothing exists independently or permanently. Understanding this, truth ceases to be an external goal and becomes a way of being, living with compassion, mindfulness, and peace in the present moment. The ultimate truth in Buddhism also reminds us of the limitations of language and thought. When we try to express truth through words and concepts, it inevitably gets reduced and distorted. Language is merely a tool, not the essence. Therefore, rather than being trapped in endless arguments, Buddhism aims for liberation through direct experience, meditation, and practice. Moreover, Buddhism points out that ultimate truth is awakening, a waking up from delusions and illusions to see the true nature of all phenomena and ourselves. When attained, a person is no longer swept away by negative emotions like anger, greed, and ignorance, but lives in a state of joy, serenity, freedom, and love. Buddhism's profound message about ultimate truth is not a rigid definition, but an invitation for each person to embark on a journey of self-discovery, enlightenment, and liberation. Truth can only be lived, experienced, and deeply understood from within. It cannot be fully captured or transmitted through words or knowledge. This freedom in approaching truth, combined with compassion and wisdom, forms the foundation for humans to transcend mental constraints and live a truly free, peaceful, and happy life. Part 10.3 Invitation. Open your mind, open your eyes, open your heart. Life is a continuous journey of expansion, not just expanding knowledge, but also opening the heart and mind to embrace new things, deeper truths about ourselves and the world around us. This is the invitation this section offers you. Open your mind, open your eyes, and open your heart to embark on a journey of discovering ever-changing truths, a transformation from within. Opening the mind means not only being ready to accept new perspectives, but also letting go of prejudices, attachments, and narrow views that often block us from true understanding. It is the courage to receive even uncomfortable or challenging truths, viewpoints that oppose what we have believed. When we learn to listen without judgment, we create space for change and growth. Opening the eyes is more than physical seeing. It is seeing with mindfulness, seeing with the depth of wisdom and compassion. To see things without the masks of prejudice, judgment, or fear, but with an empty, honest gaze. When eyes open, we perceive hidden truths in life, in others, and within ourselves, pieces we might have overlooked or avoided facing before. Opening the heart means expanding our capacity for compassion and forgiveness, for others, for circumstances, and most importantly, for ourselves. An open heart allows us to deeply feel the value of life and becomes the starting point of healing and liberation. When the heart grows large enough, we are no longer bound by hatred, resentment, stress, and rigid biases. Yet, Precisely in these moments, the invitation to open mind, open eyes, and open heart becomes especially vital. This is how we pause, reflect on ourselves and the world, and reconnect with the pure, authentic nature within each of us. This journey is not easy nor instantaneous. It is a continuous process of learning, experiencing, and self-awareness. There will be times when we stumble, doubt, or want to give up. But in those challenging moments, if we hold patience and faith, real change and growth begin. The first step in opening the mind is learning to observe without evaluating. This skill, mindfulness, not only helps us see things as they are, but understand the deep causes of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. When we observe without rushing to label, we create space for understanding and compassion to grow. Opening the eyes also means accepting the diversity and complexity of life. There is no simple or one-sided truth. Every story, every person has many perspectives, and each experience is a piece that contributes to a more complete picture. When we embrace this multidimensionality, we no longer get stuck in narrow views, but can appreciate life's richness and nuance. Opening the heart is the greatest liberation. It frees us from the barriers we create, fear, envy, selfishness, and opens the way for genuine connection with others and ourselves. Love is not a luxury. It is the power that changes the world from inside each person. When these three, open mind, open eyes, open heart, come together, we are no longer walking this path alone. We see ourselves as part of a vast living network, connected by understanding and kindness. Truth then becomes not just an abstract concept, but a living experience, a guiding light on the path. Now, have I seen truth with mindful eyes? Have I opened my heart to receive even what was once hard? Let this openness be the foundation for every action, thought, and relationship in your life. Do not fear change or facing truth, for only then will you be truly free. If you find this story meaningful, share it with family and friends to spread this message further. And if you seek more tools to practice opening your mind, eyes, and heart, follow the upcoming parts of this journey or join mindfulness, meditation, and spiritual development courses. Remember, change begins inside you. And no matter what day it is today, you have the full power to choose that path. Open your mind, open your eyes, open your heart. This is not just an invitation, but the key to unlocking the door to freedom, happiness, and deeper understanding of life. Your journey has only just begun. Be brave to keep going. Part 6. When truth changes. Truth, seemingly unchanging and solid like a mountain, yet in life, it can shift and transform over time, depending on perspective and circumstance. There are events that, when first told and understood in one way, years later, when new pieces emerge, the truth can be completely different. Sometimes, even we don't realize that we once believed in something incomplete or insufficient. Life is constantly in motion. Stories, memories, and understandings are reshaped in our minds every time we look back, reflect, and gain new experiences. Truth is not simply a fixed block that we can firmly grasp. It is like a river, sometimes calm,